So welcome to Tenant Tax Awareness Week. I'm here with Gemma Shinh, who's a private landlord. She's going to tell us a little bit about her background and the impact of Section 24, and then what she's considering doing to mitigate the impact of the tenant tax. So Gemma, welcome, and welcome to the bump. Just give us a little bit of background as to how many properties you've got and where they're located.
So I've been a landlady for the last 12 years. I have properties around London, so East London, South West London and South East London. I have 5 rental properties in total. I have lots of long-standing tenants who I've been able to keep the rent low for because they've been good, they've been loyal, and unfortunately because of the legislation that's come through recently, I'm going to have to review that because my own tax liability will be severely impacted.
A lot of people say that landlords put their rents up every year. Is that the case with you or not?
No, not at all. For me, having a good tenant that's loyal is far more important for me than always sort of chasing an increase in rent. Unfortunately, now I'm in a position where I'm having to let some really long-standing tenants know that unless they can pay market value, that they're going to have to find somewhere else to live, which I know they're not going to be able to afford, and that's a really difficult decision to have to make. I've been in a position where I've been making sufficient money, so I've not needed to be greedy and ratchet the rent up, but unfortunately due to external forces now I'm left with no other option.
I think it's fair to say a lot of landlords do have below market rents because they value an individual tenant that's living in the property, and I think also people tend to forget that actually for a tenant to move out is quite a significant cost burden. They've got a new deposit, a month's rent in advance, all of the moving costs and that kind of thing. So you concerned on behalf of your tenants the impact this is going to have on them?
Hugely, because they're just not in a position to pay market value. They've been living, some of them they've been living in my properties for sort of 7 years. Got a really great relationship with them, but it's not only will I incur more cost to have to get new tenants in, but they're also going to have to incur cost of moving, having to put new deposit down that's going to be increased, and actually swapping a property for something that's maybe not as big, not as central, for more rent. So that they're definitely not going to benefit from this, as I'm not either. So.
Yeah, and you've talked about potentially putting rents up, but also potentially selling property. I think one of the other options that people are considering is they might invest less in basically maintenance on particular refurbishment and improvement of properties, which is obviously less work for builders and tradespeople. Is that something that's on your radar as well as a potential option?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the full impact of this, this tax really hasn't been felt. There's a huge amount of ignorance about it. People either don't know or they don't understand the full tax liability as it's kind of being drip fed over the next sort of 4 years. So that I think the ramifications are going to be far and wide. And certainly when I'm making decisions around my properties and work and employing agents and things like that, I'm really going to have to think twice about whether the numbers stack up and whether it's a service that's worth going for.
How did you first find out about it? And when you did find out about it, I think when we spoke earlier, you were sort of saying actually you didn't think it would affect you initially, and I think that's probably true for a lot of people. So just talk us through that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was actually just about to have my slightly younger son. I was in the hospital when I was reading the newspaper with all the the outcome of the budget, and what I latched onto, it was a big surprise. I'm a big Conservative supporter. There was no mention of it in the run up to the election. What I latched onto was the 2040, putting you into a different tax threshold. So I just quickly assumed my tax bill was going to go up by 20%, park it, for a while. It's not going to be implemented for a few years. I then did a little bit of research, 8-9 months down the line, which is when I then stumbled upon the, the judicial review that you were at the forefront of. And actually, when I did my research, realised that what I had thought was going to happen was very far removed from what actually was going to happen, and I had misunderstood the implications.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think the government have been very clever and very deceitful in many ways in the way they've put this across, that it only affects 1 in 5 landlords, it's only for higher rate taxpayers, but they don't realise a lot of basic rate taxpayers are going to be pushed into the higher rate. Very, very clever spin and clever marketing, but not a very clever policy because, as you know and we know, that a lot of landlords are going to be selling up, not necessarily straight away, and rents are going to be going up fairly significantly. So yeah, what's your guidance, if you like, to anybody watching this? What would you say to them?
I mean, for my own situation, the most important thing that I did was get some proper tax advice, because I think there's, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of ignorance around this, and because of the period of time which is being introduced, I think the full effect of it isn't really understood. So my advice to anybody would be not to make any rash decisions. See how things pan out over the next sort of 12 to 18 months. There's been a lot of stuff going on, lobbying effort, the judicial review to really raise awareness. So my advice is, just get some proper advice and really understand, how this is going to affect you.
Great. Lovely. So thanks, Gemma. Really appreciate that. The other thing I'd like to thank you for is for your support. You've been really active on social media, on Facebook, on raising awareness. Gemma's helping today on the Axe the Tenant Tax stand. So anybody watching, we'd really encourage you. We need support. This is a grassroots, volunteer-driven movement. We need more people to get involved and help, and really follow the lead of Gemma and Jamie and others that have stepped up and stepped forward and contacted us. So encourage you to do that. Thanks for watching. Look out for the next video that's coming soon.